The parrot, a bird often vividly colored with a short, down-curved hook bill, grasping feet, and raucous voice, found especially in tropics and feeding on fruits and seeds, according to the Google Dictionary. To me, however, a parrot is a little different. In the cold suburbs of northern Illinois, I've grown up adoring these beautiful creatures without ever really interacting with them. I've obviously never seen them in the wild, though I've heard there are Quaker parrots down in Chicago, and the only interaction I have had with parrots were at the local pet store. The idea of an animal that can go anywhere whenever they want has always fascinated me. A parrot does not need to be with a person, sometimes they just want to. To own a parrot is to create such a strong bond between human and bird that relies almost entirely on trust. If a parrot doesn't like you, they can just fly away. Simple as that. And that's why I love them. Since the first grade, I've always wanted my own bird, wanted to raise my own bird. I wanted to figure out how to create a strong, trusting relationship with one. And finally, after over a decade, I have that opportunity. He's not my bird, I can't keep him, but I will be able to learn over time how to create a strong bond with him. This is Ed. That's what I named him. He's a sun conure, or Eretica solsticilis. That is a tough word. A very brightly colored bird that is mostly yellow with an orangish-red head and blue-green wings and tail when they reach adulthood. However, as a baby, he is mostly green. The sun conure species lives throughout South America, but is most common north of the Amazon River in Brazil. They're an endangered species with only an estimated 1,000 to 2,500 left in the wild. On average, a sun conure will live 15 to 30 years depending on their diet and care. Most parrot species live an extremely long life, which leads to a significant amount of rehoming. They're loud, messy, and live with you for the rest of both their life and yours, making them a huge commitment. Even so, there are over 5 million households said to own a pet bird in the US alone. So why do people like birds so much? For me, at least, it's the charm a bird has. They're one of the smartest pets someone can own, some capable of speech or solving puzzles. Not to mention their stunning colors, it's hard to see why someone wouldn't want a parrot. This video will show the growth of a parrot within 4 weeks, starting from week 4 all the way to week 8. Note, this is not a how-to video on raising a baby parrot, but more of a video documenting the experience and processes behind it all. And with that being said, it's time to move on to week 1. Let's first talk about his tank setup. I put him in a 5-gallon tank to help keep in heat since they need to be very warm. I put newspaper on the bottom and about 2 inches of shredded paper bedding on the top. This is the easiest way to clean his tank to make sure he's never too dirty. Under the tank is a small heat pad that will help warm up a cozy corner for him on one side. The other side doesn't need to have a heat pad, so if he got too hot, there would be a place for him to cool down. I had a thermometer in there to always make sure there was a good temperature, and finally, I put a lid on as well as a towel on top to keep the heat in. Before I could do anything else with Ed, I need to learn how to make his food. I used a pre-made formula, and all I really had to do was add hot water, and by hot, I mean boiling. But it was very important that I measure the temperature and make sure the consistency is right, because if it's too hot, it can burn his crop, and if it's too cold, he can get crop impaction. And if the food's too liquidy, he could starve, and if it's too thick, he could dehydrate. So there's a lot of issues going into that. The temperature has to be between 100 and 105. That's the ideal temperature. And you need to have and I quote, applesauce consistency, is what most people tell me. So while it sounded simple on paper, overall it was a lot harder to do in person because it had to be very exact and very perfect. It took me a couple tries, but after a couple days, I was pretty confident with his feeding. He was always very willing to eat his food, so I never had to worry about him resisting or biting me for the first week. Trust me, for just the first week. All he really had were his down feathers and some small ones on his face and wings. He kept to really only making one consistent noise that sounded like a dolphin. And he had very little balance. On April 19th, he started to explore new noises he could make. That was very exciting. Week 2 was a big change for Ed. He grew a lot during this week, a lot more feathers, a lot stronger. I've been handling him a lot more, and he's getting used to human touch. It's important for him to become comfortable with people and become friendly, so I try to get him with everyone. I ended up increasing the food amount he was eating because he was growing really, really fast. During his feeding, I began the harness training process. Now, I wasn't going to make him wear the harness because he's a baby, and that could cause a negative experience, but I wanted him to get used to the harness. I would slip the harness on the top of his head and I would feed him so that he would associate the harness with a positive experience like food, and he gets more comfortable with it. during this week, Ed began exploring a lot more, getting more interested in things. Because of that, I decided to give him a small bird toy and a questionable looking dog toy as well. My boss promised me that he'd get very attached to this toy and that he would love it like another little bird. I was skeptical. At this stage in life, he's going to be exploring a lot and wanting to chew on basically everything. Because he's by himself, he needs something to bond to, and that's why we have the dog toy in there. The most important thing that started this week is Ed's new food. It was time to start adding solid foods to his tank. Giving him a little bowl of mixed veggies and rice is what I've been doing, as well as a little bit of seeds here and there. Nothing too serious. I also gave him a side of millet. Right now, all he's doing is playing with the food, tasting it, and feeling the texture. He probably won't eat it much, but he'll get a taste for it by exploring it. It was pretty easy to make the food. I just cooked some rice and mixed it with frozen veggies and then put it in the fridge. Nothing too exciting. But variety is key at this stage, so he'll be getting a mix of everything. Some moistened pellets, some seeds, maybe a rice or two, carrot. All of this will hopefully lead up to him finally being weaned and ready to go at the end of the month. Week 3 has begun and the weaning process is in full swing. Ed is getting fresh veggies and rice 3 times a day during breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He doesn't need any veggies or rice at night because it could spoil. That would be bad. He got a tank upgrade from 5 to 10 gallons. Now he can move a lot more. And he has more kind of room to stretch out his wings and be a bird. I also added a little wooden perch in there so that he has some time to practice perching, standing on his feet. There's still a heat pad underneath for comfort, and he seems to appreciate the upgrade. He began losing weight a little bit, which was concerning me a bit, but during the weaning process, a parrot usually loses weight because they're eating less of the formula, or at least they're trying to eat less of the formula. Throughout the week, he's become less interested in his formula and more interested in his solid food, which has become troublesome for me. Along with almost all of his feathers growing in, his personality has also begun to shine. He enjoys playing with his toys, rolls around, and is just a big old goof. And the most surprising part of this week was when he finally took his first leap of faith, quite literally. He decided to, after I weighed him, jump right onto my chest, which was not expected and it scared me a little bit, I'll be honest with you. But after his first flight practice, he became unstoppable. He practices his flight at any point in time he can get, and I can barely keep him still when I try to feed him anymore. He'll usually fly to me or his cage when he's done eating, or when he's telling me, I don't want more food. Let's quickly talk about week 4, the final week. But not really, because I'll still be taking care of Ed after this. It's just the final week that I'll be documenting it on a video. That being said, Ed has become very resistant to his food. He doesn't want to eat it anymore, and he'd rather eat the solid food. However, he's still weaning, and he still won't eat enough solid food to get him to the next kind of meal. So I have to force feed his formula. This is a lot of work and a lot harder than just giving it to him and him taking it. But that's all I can do at the moment, and that's all he's going to be able to eat at the moment. He now also really loves to fly. He'll try to do it whenever he can. If I open the cage door, he'll just start flying laps around my room. So I tried to train him to get to my hand, and now whenever he flies a lap around my room, he'll usually land right back on my hand. Unless he can't reach my hand, then he'll try going somewhere else, which is a little dangerous, but he's doing his best and he knows what he's doing. Sort of. He's clumsy about it. Ed also got a final cage upgrade until he goes to his forever home. He got into a small bird cage that has low perches and low toys. That way he doesn't hurt himself if he tries to jump or falls. And he'll have more room to kind of fly around, practice flying, and all of that kind of stuff. And now we've come to the end of the video. I have had so much joy and happiness hand-raising this bird. It's something I've always wanted to do, and it did not fail to disappoint. Birds have been such a huge interest of mine ever since I was little, and to be able to have this opportunity has truly been a gift. I love Ed so much, and while I cannot keep him, I most definitely will remember him, this experience, and what I've learned from it. I'm genuinely so happy that I've been able to do this. It's something I've always wanted to do, and now that I've done it, I want to do it even more. Thank you for watching if you got through all of this. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.